Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. So, I was coming home one day. I was walking home. I was going to the shopping center. I was going to like the nearest grocery store market to get some food and supplies for the week since I'm pretty much by myself for this entire week. So I have to, so I'm charged with being head of the household and taking care of things while I have family out traveling. And as I was making my way back, I saw what to me, what I perceived, what I thought were two individuals. I think they were siblings, uh, one girl, one boy. And I saw the sister. She was kind of standing there with her left foot, I believe it was raised. And then what I think was her brother was like on his knees and just like uh, tying her shoes for her, like right there on the sidewalk as I was just making my way back home. And I wanted to use that moment for today's episode to talk about something I think is important. Now, just to kind of disclaim, I'm not no, I bring this example up, of course, you know, with again, I don't have any context. I don't know if it's just the sister was lazy in terms of like getting her shoes tied for her, or if she genuinely didn't know how to tie her shoes and her brother was there to just help her tie her shoes. And so in this episode I was inspired to talk about something I think is important when it comes to what we are as a soul. And I think in our journey and our as we're going through life in our different stages, I definitely, when we're born and we're growing up, a lot of our needs and stuff are met through the assistance of other people, right? And because understandably, like especially like as an infant, can't feed ourselves if our intellect's barely even developed to even or not even developed at all at that point to just to do that. A lot of like the learning that happens in the process of taking care of ourselves, from like potty training and brushing our teeth and things like that, to even like feeding ourselves and stuff like that. I'm sure we are collectively we've gone through the experiences and having to learn the ropes through our parents or whomever were our caretakers. And so, I mentioned that because, that's all definitely important. But I believe that, what's important in our own development and in life, I think it's important that we take the time to really build on that self-reliance. Um, because in the sense that we are really, when we look at ourselves spiritually, at least what I've come to understand, who we are, what we are as a soul with the physical body, is that we are our own DIY kit. In other words, the do it yourself, for those that are not familiar with the acronym. And I think that's part of an important thing in our journey because as a soul, we crave a lot of, not a lot of, we crave spiritual freedom to feel autonomous and independent. And I think it's important that we explore the ways where we can unfold that even more. Especially like looking back at that example of the the brother and the sister getting her shoelaces tied. Like again, I don't know the context. I mean, she may genuinely not know how to tie her shoes, and she has somebody help her out, or if she's just being lazy. And I mean, if it's the latter, I mean, I'm not here to kind of judge that. If people feel some type of way, I mean, it sucks that if other people are being used to to do something for another individual that they themselves can do. That's where I see that can be a problem. Again, no judgment or anything like that. I just try to look at it just from that perspective of that's not going to be conducive or helpful, beneficial spiritually for the person who's manipulating the other individual, and of course the person that's being manipulated, obviously they're not going to benefit from it. Um, you know, because I look at it from the perspective, for like one aspect of it I see is just that even when I'm working with my spirit guides aren't there to do things for me. You know, that they made it perfectly clear. You know, they're not gonna take away my troubles or all the stuff that I might be experiencing here in this planet because they respect my freedom. And so I mentioned that, you know, we crave and love and we desire that freedom. It's that spiritual freedom, that autonomy, feeling free inside because it's light and it feels good. It feels uh, uplifting, fulfilling, to feel that freedom wherever wherever we are. You know, I think it's an important thing to like. I think in life there are many areas. There are areas where we feel pretty free and good, and then I think the moments where there are opportunities for growth are areas where I know for myself where I don't feel quite as free where I could be. And thinking about it in terms of like potential. I mean, after all, I think part of the reasons why we came to this planet, as far as like what is a common theme, even a lot of us came to do, even yourself, to do something specific and unique and different, uh, is to liberate ourselves from ourselves, to liberate ourselves from the bondage of ignorance. And that's a key component as well as to why our spirit guides are here too, why they're involved in our lives and why they're assisting us. They want to help free their brothers and sisters, you know. And it's from, you know, talking about this particular thing like ignorance, you know, that's something that needs healing because ignorance, they say ignorance is bliss, but in actuality, it's bondage. And with bondage, it just comes limitations, suffering, a lot of heavy, dense energy. That's just doesn't feel good. It sucks. So in our journey, I think it's really important that we really have to do for ourselves, um, to really learn to be reliant on ourselves, um, and not too reliant on other people. And the way I see it is a balance, right? We can. This isn't to say that it's nothing wrong to like not, you know, it's not about like not asking for help and just being prideful and like, oh, I'm gonna just do it myself, do it myself, do it myself, because that also is not healthy too. The key I want to emphasize here is just moving with balance. So it's like utilizing the help when it's necessary, you know, which of course requires having to release pride. And I feel like that can definitely happen a lot with men. And I'm sharing this from the perspective of living as a guy in on this planet. Just, you know, this the collective concept, or even just me growing up, what I was taught is just like I have to do it myself. I have to work hard, and never gave myself the grace to ask for help because I thought it'd make me look weak, or I would feel like I'd be imposing on people. Like, oh, I don't want to bother somebody. I don't want to just bother people. Bother. As if me existing and I'm taking up space and I'm feeling bad about taking up space. I'm taking up space. I'm here. Like, why would I ever feel ashamed about taking up space? And there's no reason for you to feel ashamed. You're here. You're here. You have been, you are, and you always will be. You will always take up space, and it's your right to do that. Your own beautiful space. And so that's been an interesting concept that's like has affected me a lot. That has been an obstacle for me to like reach out to people. That has like been the excuses that I would tell myself from so that I don't act on reaching out to people and ask for help when I genuinely need it. So there's this importance. So I think it's important to have this when it comes to reliance. I need to have a good amount of reliance on myself and a good amount of reliance and also I would say to add in the mix as well, not just for the people, for myself too. Trust. Having reliance and trusting in myself and other people is super important. I think that's part of what's necessary for my own spiritual growth and advancement. Because I've definitely received a lot of help, despite, my own personal setbacks, my own personal obstacles. And so when it comes to reliance on myself and then with others, it's important to just to understand and discern, to recognize. Now, going back to the example with the siblings, right, and the sister getting her shoes tied, it she could be aware that it's like, hey, I'm having someone else tie my shoes. Like, for me, it's important to discern before I ask for help, to really ask myself, is this something that I could do myself? And oftentimes I know we have that good intuitive sense that we know we can do it ourselves, yet perhaps we may choose to just lean onto somebody, you know? Like an example for myself that really hits home, like, with the job and where the program that I'm working with the trail rangers, we have our own little social media account, you know, um, Instagram, where we take turns amongst the rangers to just post something. And for me, sometimes, this is where I lack a little bit of trust within myself. When I post something, we all are encouraged to post something about what we do in the program, to educate, to connect, to engage. And when I before I make a post, I always have this habit of, like, wanting to ask, like, okay, is this okay? Like, almost like that, a permission thing. Like, is it okay for me to post this? It's not going to be bad, is it? Again, this is kind of like, for me, like, blocks from, like, my first 7 years growing up, kind of coming out in this situation here. But even on the other side too, though, I think it isn't bad to get feedback as well before posting. Let me just add that as well too, just to give you a sense of my awareness where I'm at with this, because it's always good to get some feedback from, at least in a particular example here, my colleagues, of like, it just makes for a good post. But I think what I want to highlight in this particular instance and why I bring it up is my motive, because oftentimes I'll have this motive, like, I'm talking to someone greater than me, or like almost I would perceive my parents or someone as an authority figure, like, oh, I need to ask this person for permission before I do anything. Otherwise, it doesn't feel right. It feels wrong. Like I'm doing something. I'm stepping out of line. And can you see how, like, problematic that sounds as I'm, like, vocalizing this? Like, I'm aware of this, but it's like this deeply ingrained, deeply rooted habits and subconscious programming and stuff that that I'm working through. But it's like, that's an example of, like, just having that reliance and trust on myself to just post about things that we do as a program on our day-to-day job and stuff like that when we're out on the trails doing the good old maintenance work. It's just one of those moments for myself that, again, yeah, I need to have more of that for myself. So when it comes to reliance on others, I think it's important for me to just really know when to ask for help. And I think oftentimes for me, like, the indicators, like, if I'm working in something and I genuinely don't know, maybe it's something technical related. I mean, if it's definitely technical related, it's like, okay, I need to speak up here. I'm not going to try to make up or try to do something. Like, say if I'm working with my first time working with a power tool or something to cut vegetation. I mean, I better damn ask somebody if I'm not feeling quite as confident or unsure about how to operate, the equipment, type of example. There's definitely situations where it's like, yeah, it's better to do that rather than just like, no, I'm not going to ask. I'm going to figure it out, because that I need to figure it out and do it myself, type of thing. That, again, out of balance, it can be very toxic and dangerous and creates not just trouble for the individual, like in this case myself, if I was being irresponsible, but for other people, those close to me who I work with, engage with. Um, it can be very problematic. So not asking for help when it's necessary can be very detrimental. So for me, it's like, if I don't know, if I don't even feel quite as confident, it's just and sometimes perhaps I may even feel doubt. And I think when in doubt, though, if you're in a situation, if especially if it's like a job related thing, it definitely doesn't hurt to ask for help, to even default to that, to have to rely on others. But then it's like, as I'm building my knowledge and having more experiences, then at that point it's like, okay, there's less of a reason to be more reliant on other people, like let's say in this example in my job, like on my colleagues, and there's more I can rely on myself and trust myself that I can do it because I had the experience to really do for myself. Like I've had the experiences to work with the power tools, so now it's like there's no reason for me to have to rely on somebody else to say, hey, do this thing for me, because I've had the experience and practice, and I had the support in that experience, and that's the crucial part here, the beautiful integration of like me helping myself as I'm relying on other people to help me, you know, in that situation. So it's a very little beautiful dynamic thing that happens. And I think that's a very important, crucial thing too, is that can you identify areas where you receive help in your own life, perhaps personally, perhaps in your work life, or even perhaps with your friends, just like whichever circles you have. I think it's important that in this dynamic thing of like relying on myself and also relying on others, is that as I'm getting the help, is that's definitely important that I show up for myself, and this is kind of highlighting a bit why I think self-reliance needs to be unfolded and expanded in addition to with the reliance on others. And I want to use the example that your life, you have your own life to live, you know. We all have a responsibility to ourselves to live our own lives, which we share with people. We can share with the people that we want, that we so choose. And I think that responsibility to ourselves to live our own lives is part of why we need to be self-reliant oftentimes. And especially when it comes to our own needs, especially physical. Take for example, eating, using the bathroom, you know. I can't make someone use the bathroom for me. They can't hijack my physical body and help me push or whatever, or just have my bowel movements happen kind of situation. No, I have to do it myself. I can't make somebody else breathe for me. I have to breathe for myself. Looking at this example, it's like as above, so below, or like there's that saying, right? As above heaven, or just as so below on earth, type of thing. Like I share that because it's like looking at the aspects of like the material world, right? Like the examples I just shared really teaches a lot about the spiritual reality of how things are, universal truth, if you will. So I just wanted to kind of share a little bit to kind of highlight that as well too. So I need to be able to take care of my own physical needs. So again, going back to that responsibility itself, because no one's gonna, I can't expect that, But if there's opportunity, for me to step up and to just do more, and oftentimes it might be areas where it can feel a little bit scary, and that's totally valid, you know. One example for me is like where there's definitely a lot of room for improvement in terms of me taking care of my needs is cooking. I've definitely relied heavily. I will admit on my mother because she's done it all like and as far as in the household, with my parents and my sister. She's always done this. A lot of it because of her perceptions and things like that. And although I'm not going to get too much into that, but more so just want to highlight like I know for me there's definitely room for improvement for myself, and it feels scary at times, and where I feel like I don't trust myself enough to just like, hey, like let's just cook some simple stuffs here. Let's learn, or even just like cooking meat, for example. I don't feel too confident in myself. It's something that I'm working on, and it's just like I bring that example to kind of to highlight like there's sometimes like having to do for yourself can feel really scary, and it's very easy to just if it's a habit. I know for myself to default to somebody else to just do it for me. Please just take care of it for me. You know, maybe with the sister story, for example, the siblings. Maybe she's used to and haven't been relying on her sibling to tie her shoes for her. But that it can be very detrimental. Again, like if I think when it comes to needs, again, it's just like I have to be really self-reliant in that regard, because if I'm not, I mean, basic needs are basic needs. It's how I operate and move day to day. And if that relies on somebody, well, what if that person's not there in the equation anymore? What then? Then it's like, oh my God, my whole world gets turned upside down. And it's just like, oh, gee. ah, oh, it's just it's just then I might feel insecure. I might feel afraid. I might, in the insecurity, want to latch onto something outside of me, where I gave up too much of my power to something external, to someone outside of me. But in reality, I have that power within myself. I have that power within myself. And so, and to look at it, the self reliance piece from the spiritual perspective, because I just kind of went on a, I was talking a bit about the material aspect to it, right? The spiritual aspect to it is that, we all came to this school, this planet, to raise our own state of awareness, our own state of consciousness. No one can do that for you but you. And this could be a tough pill to swallow. I know for some, I mean, it has been for me at times, especially like when I'm going through experiences and I'm feeling some type of ways that's not good. My own growth process, which isn't always like dandy and all roses and stuff like that, it can feel ugh, not good. It can feel cringy. It can feel a lot of things. But the fact of the matter is, we have that responsibility to raise our own state of awareness. No one's going to do it for us. Not even our spirit guides, not even God, whatever, insert name of a loved one or a friend or whomever, or partner. No one's going to do that. And that will always be a reality. That right there is universal truth I've come to understand. I mean, of course, there's many, but that's definitely one of them I want to highlight. Highlight, highlight, highlight. I've been saying that a lot, but I mean, it really does. It's worth talking about. And then when it comes to like your own purpose, what you've come to do, your presence, how you show up, that's something only you can do. It doesn't make sense to have somebody else come do that for us because they can't. I can't do what you came here to do just as much as you can't do what I came here to do. And personally, I wouldn't change anything about it, honestly. That's what makes us so unique, what makes you unique. If you're listening to this, that's what makes you unique amongst billions of people out there, billions and billions of souls out there in this plane or in the other planes of existence. There's no one there out there like you and what you've come to do and how you show up. Do you see how special you are? Or sense your own uniqueness? Again, not in an arrogant way, but just honoring yourself and what you're about, who you are. So that is so again going back to what I shared earlier now with when it comes to like, to really wrap up this episode now is I think it's just important that when it comes to that reliance piece, it is important like many things in life to approach it with balance in relationships, to really answer the call to be sincere when whatever experiences wherever we are in whatever area of your life where we need to be self-reliant, we need to trust ourselves to do for ourselves because that is a genuine spiritual need. Anything otherwise that contradicts that reality are just limiting programming conditioning that was passed on from other people. And I say it because it doesn't serve. So it's like going, having the courage to just, okay, I need to rely on myself, believe in myself, trust myself. And then, of course, not allowing ego or pride to just like, hey, I need some help here in this area. And so the reliance on the self and then the reliance on other people to assist us, that's there both spiritually and physically, materially. And it's just, again, we're recognizing when it comes to just our own needs and stuff like that. And it's just sensing and discerning. I mean, all of this is a practice, right? And I share all this. The goal is not to get this perfect or be right. Sometimes things will happen and it's just like I might default to something where I'm like, I want to rely on, a friend or rely on, my mom, for example, like if I need a quick fixed meal for perhaps I'm going to a trip and I didn't set the time to do myself to prepare the food. Like little moments like that. There's always going to be something, right? I'm just mentioning that as an example for myself. There's always going to be stuff that can come up, and I think it's important in this process of building autonomy while also utilizing the help and the resources that are available to just give ourselves the grace if perhaps we may fall short, you know. Um, but again, I just the more I can just unfold my own spiritual freedom and empower myself, the more that I can be that example to other people, and how much of a lasting positive impact that can be. When it's like, wow, that person did it themselves. If they could do it, I can do it. Kind of an impact, you know. And definitely when they're going through our challenges and our trials and stuff like that, I know we can all benefit from people helping us believe in ourselves. I know that I'm sure there are obstacles that you're going through, that you have tendencies, habits, and stuff like that. And to look at all that like it's okay, no big deal, just all part of your own growth process. Lean in, trust into yourself in situations that you know you can do it. And then, of course, lean into others, and that's okay too. When things get rough, things get tough, when life be lifing, when storms come about, it's never okay. It's never okay. No, it's okay to just have that lending hand, to have that hand up, not a handout. And so I believe in you, my friend. My own, not my own. You are a DIY kit, a do it yourself kit. And you have all the help and resources available to you to assist you in your purpose and what you've come to do. To assist you so that you can claim and live the best life that you possibly can while you are here in this limited period of time, just as we all do, just as I do. We all will pass on. But I'm super glad that at least we don't have to live, we're not in this journey alone. Looking at it from just like from people out there and even people on the other side. So, hope something resonated with you. And yeah, I'll close it here, my friend. And so, this has been another episode of Spirit Engineered. I'm your host, Alan Cepeda, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.